With the 21st pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Clinton Dix.
It's time for the Packers War Room Podcast.
Made me a believer into really thinking that the Packers really could run the table, and that was when I said right away, they're winning the NFC North.
The bomb to Jordy Nelson was just a moment that I'll never forget. For him to be able to get behind the corner and really just catch the prayer, essentially, was just quintessential Packers 2016.
Like I said, for this team to win 2 playoff games was just astounding with how beat up they were and the state of their defense, really.
And now, alongside Jacob Westendorf and Cody Bauer, here's your host of the Packers War Room Podcast, Ross Uglum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Packers War Room Off-Season Podcast. I am your host, Ross Uglum. I'm a writer at cheeseheadtv.com. With me, as always, is my co-host, Jacob Westendorf. Jacob, how's it going?
Doing well. We're on the eve of free agency here, so that's really exciting if you're a Pack. No, it's not exciting at all. Talking Packers draft here. Excited to get going. It's the Edge Rusher edition, so this should be our best episode yet because it's my favorite position of this class, so I'm excited to talk about that.
For sure, and this show, got going pretty early on in the offseason, so it's fun to have some actual stuff to talk about. This is your post-combine pre-free agency show, so that's very exciting stuff. As you mentioned, Green Bay not incredibly active in free agency, but it's fun to think about. Also joining us, as always, again, is co-host Cody Bauer, draft expert for Cheesehead TV, contributor to the Cheesehead TV Draft Guide. Cody, how's it going?
Things are going great, man. Post-combine, lots of stuff going through my head, lots of information I digest. It's just a good time to be in draft mode. What is it? I think it's like 50 days till draft day. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of excitement. So we're pumped to talk about some edge this class.
Yeah, you can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to kick things off a little bit differently on this week's show. For the first time this season, we have a guest. We have a special guest. The man's name is Voch Lombardi. Voch has some very insightful and very entertaining scouting videos out there on YouTube, some things that I ran across when I was doing this year's defensive line and edge classes. So I'm very happy and pleased to welcome on Voch. Voch, how's it going?
And it's Voch Lombardi. Thanks for having me, guys. I know football like Bubba knows shrimp. Appreciate you.
We appreciate you as well. We appreciate having you on. So let's kind of learn about Voch here. Where are you from? Who are you a fan of? Let us know a little bit about yourself.
I'm from a small town called Natchez, Mississippi, but I currently reside in Houston, Texas. But I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I've been in hostile environments my entire football career.
And when?
Yeah, I know. I didn't even tell you guys that I'm bringing the drama here. Let's go.
When did you get kind of your start in pre-draft evaluations?
I always look at myself as a talent evaluator, right? But I just now got into the whole scouting thing. When guys would come to me and say, "Hey, Voch, what do you think about this kid from this school coming out in the 2019 class?" And I would have no idea. Those guys are scouts. I just look at players and evaluate them. So I'm just now getting into the whole talent scout thing. The whole, hey, let me research this guy, and if I was a GM, where would I put him? What would I do if I was this team type of deal? So maybe, 365 days or so, maybe 2 years.
All right. And we talked a little bit about your YouTube channel. But where else can the good people that listen to this podcast check out your work? Do you work for any publications during the draft season? Do you work for any sites, blogs, whatever?
No, sir, I do not. So if anybody is hiring, come find me. This is really a hobby of mine. I used to coach football, so now I'm just transitioning out of that because I didn't want to be a teacher or whatnot. So hey, if y'all want to make football my day job, come find me. I'm free.
All right, so when did this YouTube channel get started? And kind of tell us a little bit about the kind of the process of making these videos, what got you interested in it, and really the reception that you've seen so far.
I'm a very passionate person when it comes to football, and notably my football opinion. And this whole thing started with a conversation, a debate rather. This one guy thought Derrick Henry was better than Ezekiel Elliott, and I could not let that young man go into life thinking that. Right, so I told him I'll just make this YouTube video. I've coached football before. I've broken down film before. So if you watch my YouTube videos, it's like I'm breaking down film. I'm giving emotion. I'm giving feedback. I'm rewinding the play 3 or 4 times. This is not like a normal highlight tape. I bring the positives and negatives. And after I showed the light, the young man was on board with Ezekiel Elliott being way better than Derrick Henry, because I was called a hater first, because Alabama fans get really passionate. But when you bring the facts, when you evaluate talent and not numbers, and you don't evaluate media storylines and things like that, you get a clear picture of the player that you're looking at. And that's what I bring with my channel and my evaluations, and that's pretty much how this thing got started.
All right. Like I said, your videos are very unique. It's a different flavor than a lot of the scouting videos that you'll see, which include a lot of buzzwords, but you have some of your own buzzwords. And I'll admit, like I'm doing defensive line and edge for the Cheesehead TV draft guide. So most of the videos I've seen of yours are at the line of scrimmage. There's not a lot of stuff going on in space, but at the line of scrimmage, you talk about ass whoop. Talk to us about ass whoop, and then let us know if there's any other Voch Lombardi scouting terms that the good people don't know about yet.
Ass whoop originated when I was watching Myles Garrett. Honestly, I promise. And I was watching Myles, and I was like, I can't explain why he's so good. I mean, it's easy to say he's bigger than everybody. He's strong. He's fast, right? But I feel like Myles is not the most polished edge rusher this year. I feel like he doesn't have everything he needs to be that pro level edge rusher. I'm like, man, what is it about this guy that just makes him beat people one-on-one, right? And it's just ass whoop. He has speed, he has strength, and he has ass whoop. He just beats the guy in front of him, right? And that's kind of, what makes him the number 1 overall pick consensus is because of his ceiling, right? Like, if you teach Myles how to use his hands and how to pull cloth and how to rip and how to, use one pass rush move, get blocked, and counter that move, right? If you teach Myles these things, there's no telling what he can turn into. Like, even if you watch him during the combine, right, it looks like he's just a caveman out there, right? When you watch him run his 40, he doesn't look like a sprinter. It doesn't look like he worked on it. It looked like he just rolled out of bed, showed up, and ran faster than everybody, right? And that's what's so good about Myles. So if you can get him and, fine-tune him a little bit, ass whoop hopefully will turn into an actual term. Like, I want to see Mike Mayock say ass whoop on TV one day and shout me out. Hopefully.
Good luck with that, certainly.
Ross, I got a question for you, though, man, if you don't mind me asking.
Go ahead.
Which video was it that made you find me? Because I'm relatively young in this whole YouTube thing, and I'm always curious to how people found me.
Tack.
Love Tack McKinney.
Yep, me too. That's how I got involved.
I get passionate, man. I get passionate. Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, I got all sorts of hate because why would you draft a guy that's going to be out for 4 to 6 months? And it's like, well, because you got him on a cheap contract for 4 years, and I think in a normal draft he'd be a top 10 player. But we can get into Tack a little bit later. But that was my guy.
But with that, man.
Man, the thing about Tack McKinley, I know you said we're gonna get to him at some point, but let me just say this about Tack McKinley, man. Everybody in the national, every prospect now, I think they're all projects, right? And I don't want to say projects like everyone else says projects, but I think they're all, hey, if you get Tim Williams, what happens when you put him in this situation, right? Kind of like that. Or if you get, what's another password? If you get Carl Lawson and put him here, what happens? So everybody has a different scenario, right? I just feel like if you take Tack McKinley, and you put him with somebody that teaches him how to play football. This is my idea about Tack McKinley. If you give Tack McKinley a stick and a shoe with a hard heel on it, he can go in a cave full of bears and walk out alive. That's how I feel about Takk McKinley. He just doesn't know how to play football yet. That's why I get so passionate about him. But I'll let you continue your interview. Pardon me. I get passionate.
No problem. That's what we have you on here for, is your uniqueness, for lack of a better word, in the grind that can be looking at 5-6 games for 20 to 25 different prospects. I mean, it gets to be a lot, and I really enjoyed that. So as I mentioned, this isn't all about me, but like the class that I'm evaluating right now is edge. This show specifically, and both now and when you get off the line, is going to be about edge. So what are your thoughts on this class of edge rushers?
I think it's a deep class. I think it's, once you get past the top heavy part, meaning Myles Garrett, it can kind of switch up a little bit. There's a debate about who's better out of Tim Williams and Derek Barnett. Then once you get past that point, there's a debate about who's out of Carl Lawson or Charles Harris, or you may look at T.J. Watt, because T.J. Watt gets mocked to you guys all the time, and Green Bay fans come and ask me questions like that. There's a lot of debate inside the day 2 guys, the early day 3 guys, right? There's about 4 rounds of good, solid pass rushers, like edge guys. And what makes them fall, could be injury, could be size, could be, hey, you can play the pass, but you don't play the run really well, right? There are plenty of defensive ends, but this is a good class for pass rushers. So, being Green Bay, if you want to get somebody to go chase the quarterback, this is a pretty good class to go get them. And you don't have to get them early. You can get them later in 3 and 4 and still have somebody that can, be productive on third down, even fourth and long.
Let's talk about the classes in general. And I think, from what I've looked at, and granted, that's very much a Packers-centric way of looking at it, because of the positions I've evaluated, but I really feel like the top 2 positions, you may not agree, are corner and this edge class. Do you feel like the corner class is better, the edge class is better? Is there another position that you'd like to put forth as the best position in this draft?
Just so I can give you a little bit of confirmation, you are not wrong for thinking that. I think this class is deep at running back, then edge, but I do think ultimately cornerback is the number 1 class as far as depth, as far as who's best here. And it just happens, Green Bay may need running backs, edge rushers, and cornerbacks, right? But like I was saying, it was deep with edge rushers, and you can kind of debate one guy here, 2 or 3 guys there. When you look at cornerback, there are 12 potential first-round guys, right? Yeah,
I had 10, but, 12, there's nothing wrong with that either.
12, and that's kind of me pushing it, but what it is these days is that these teams fall in love with, hey, he's 6 foot, he can run, he can cover, let's look at him. And it's a bunch of these 6-foot corners, man. You got Marlon Humphrey, Marshawn Lattimore, Tease Tabor, Garyon Conley, Quincy Wilson, Cordray Tangley, Fabian Moreau. You can get into like 12 guys deep of 6-foot corners that can run and cover. And what's going to happen is these teams are going to say, you know what? The cornerback class is so deep, we can get one in the 2nd round, right? So these good corners, these Quincy Wilsons, these Garyon Conleys, they're going to fall later into the draft because teams are going to take another position because the position is so deep. So, it really depends on, what you feel about, Quentin Rollins or Gunter, Ladarius Gunter. It really depends on what you feel about him. But there's nickel corners here. There are big corners that can go play big receivers. There are guys that can go cover shifty outside guys. There are guys that can go cover tight end and go play safety, right? About 15 of them. So, pick your poison here. All the way to the 6th round, honestly, if you ask me.
All right, so getting away from the draft as a whole and really focusing in on the position group of choice here, who is, we talked about Myles Garrett already. I don't think that you really can even make an argument for another edge over Garrett. I think that he is one shelf, and then you're on a completely different shelf when you're talking about anybody ranked 2nd. So who is your favorite non-Myles Garrett edge in this class?
I would say Tack McKinley, but I did a lot of talking about Tack, and we are, trying to run a show here. So I'm going to give you different. I'm going to say a guy like Tim Williams. Let me say two names, okay? Let's just talk Tim Williams and Derek Barnett, right? Both of these guys, right? When I look at Derek Barnett, I think of a guy that he's polished. He knows what he's doing. He has every single Batman utility belt little weapon that you can get hit with, right? He has everything. But when you look at a guy like Tim Williams, he has about 2 or 3 moves that he does perfectly, right? Like Derek Barnett can hit you with a rip move and do a cool little spin move, but Tim Williams may have the best spin move of the past 5 years. That's just giving you an idea. Green Bay drafts at 29, so I mean, a guy like Carl Lawson may be there for you guys. A guy like Charles Harris, these big burst off the edge guys, these super bendy guys, these, hey, my rip move is better than your pass set type of guys, right? I mean, it's easy to get excited about any of these people. I just don't have a favorite one. As a Cowboys fan, we're looking for edge rushers too. So, I mean, I can't just pick one guy, man. I'm a kid in the candy store here.
That's fair enough. Give me the most underrated edge defender in this class.
There's this one kid. And the only reason he's underrated and he may be a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th round pick is because of his size, and he may be a liability in the run game. But as far as pass rusher, there's this kid from Pittsburgh, a cat named Ewan Price. I want you guys to go look him up tonight. I want you to go to Draft Breakdown right now. I want you to go watch some Ewan Price, Ejuan Price. That kid knows how to rush the passer, and I trust the tape. Okay? I love combine stuff. I love numbers and stats and all that little crap. The tape shows me that Ewan Price might be one of the top 5 as far as pass rushers. Okay, like I said, he's small. He's a liability in the run game, and that will make his stock fall a little bit. But he's one of the top 5 pass rushers, and you can get that kid in the 4th or the 5th round. Go watch him.
Top 5 short wearer in football history? Got to be, right?
100%. 100%. He's like 5'9", 210 or something like that. You just take him late and be like, hey, I don't know where I'm going to play you, but give me like 3 months and I'll have a spot for you. Just go chase the quarterback on 3rd and long, 4th and 5. Go get him.
All right, this is kind of the coup de grace. This is the last one here. Fit Green Bay and their needs with a round and a pass rusher. So, it's going to be the 29th pick in every round. Find me a pass rusher that's the best fit and value. At which round and who is it?
When it comes to, situations like this, I always tell people to take the best player available, And I've seen a lot of mocks. I don't think T.J. Watt would be the best player available at 29, right? I think they're, at 29, as far as edge rush, Charles Harris will probably be there. Like I said, Carl Lawson will be there, right, at 28. And then you can go and get a corner like Fabian Moreau, and you can get Jamal Williams from BYU. You can go do that, right? But say you did something like, took Joe Mixon or like Christian McCaffrey in the 1st round. Then you can go and get a guy like T.J. Watt in the 2nd round. You can go get a Ryan Anderson from Alabama in the 2nd round, a Deshaun Hall maybe from Texas A&M. You can look at all those guys. But then you say, what if we got a Garyon Conley in the 1st round and we got Alvin Kamara in the 2nd, and we're going to get an edge rusher in the 3rd round or something like that? Well, there are guys like Joe Mathis from Washington. He'll probably fit you guys well with his little outside linebacker situation. If you want to watch someone small beat up on a big offensive tackle from Stanford, go watch Joe Mathis versus Stanford. He whoops everybody. You want to talk about some ass whoop? He whoops everybody all day from Stanford. And I also told you, go look at Ewan Price from Pittsburgh. Just a few scenarios for you guys.
All right, man. This was great. You guys can check out Voch on YouTube. I will link to some of his stuff when we publish this show. Voch, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Voch Lombardi, spelled just the way it is. I don't have any fake pages or nothing like that. I don't have the thingamajigger, the Adam Schefter Part 2. It is just regular Voch Lombardi. I don't have any fake aliases or nothing like that. So just look me up. I'm here.
All right. Well, we really appreciate having you on. That was very entertaining, very informative. I have a feeling that our listeners are going to love it. So, Voch, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Salute, guys. Appreciate it. Have me on again.
All right. So, now, Jacob, Cody, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Because of the Voch interview.
Brad, let me interject.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That guy is entertaining. Mark my words, next year he will be a member of Draft Twitter hierarchy. He's entertaining, informative. He seemed like he knows his stuff. That was a fun interview.
No, I know. I'm excited to be the one who discovered Voch. And I'm gonna claim that too.
Whoa. Packers War Room podcast discovered Voch.
Okay, all right. That's fair. So because of the Voch interview, we're just gonna, and also because we have at this time absolutely no Packers news to talk about except for the fact that they re-signed Jake Shum, the punter. Let's just exactly. Let's dive in just to this edge class. So guys, what round, if any, are you looking for edge?
29 overall, first-round pick. Ross, I was talking to you off the air. I think it was on the weekend when we were both kind of going through some film study, and I told you this is a Justice Mosqueda theory. I don't know if he's trademarked it or not, but pass rushers are quarterbacks. And what he means by that is you have to find them early, and there's a breakdown of if you find Pro Bowl, All-Pro, really good, whatever way you want to slice it, you find really good pass rushers, you have to find them early. You find really good quarterbacks more often than not, you find them early. And you look at the Packers' pass rush situation, there's no definitive news at this moment on Nick Perry, but there's a big market for him. It's uncertain right now if the Packers are going to be able to bring him back. There's no definitive news on Dayton Jones. As we record this right now, it's the same story that we've had. You know, the Packers have Clay Matthews and Kyler Fackrell under contract, and that is it. They don't have a whole lot in the means of pass rush, and even if they do bring those guys back, the pass rush wasn't very effective for the end of the year last year. Now, some of that was because of Matthews battling injuries, Nick Perry playing with one hand, et cetera, but pass rush is the second most important thing in today's NFL behind passing game. So if passing game is the most important, then on defense, the most important thing is putting the quarterback on the ground. So pass rushers are quarterbacks. You have to find them early. That means the round that you're looking in, that's 29 overall. I think that you have to be looking at one in the first round. I know a lot of people are going to point to cornerback as a need for the Packers, and that obviously is in there as well. I know when we ranked team needs, cornerback and pass rusher were 1 and 1A for me. And that still is the case, obviously, because the Packers haven't done anything as far as cornerback situation either as of yet. While they have contacted Devon House about a potential reunion, even though that doesn't completely solve their cornerback needs, I would still say if you look at the New York Giants, for example, when they won their first Super Bowl, that secondary was average to below. And the reason they were able to win that Super Bowl is because they put Tom Brady on his back. And they had 4 really, really good pass rushers able to put the quarterback on the ground. Even though the Seattle Seahawks get a lot of publicity for their secondary, they have Michael Bennett, and they had Cliff Averill, and they have really good pass rushers. I'm looking 29th overall. That's where I'm looking for a pass rusher, and I think that's where you have to get to at least start looking for one. Obviously, if they don't pick one there, you can start looking because it's a deep class, but I think that's where you have to start, and I don't think it should be out of the question whatsoever to start looking at 29th and maybe even potentially double dip if you miss out on a couple guys to bring back.
Cody, your thoughts?
I would have no qualms about taking one at 29. I mean, if value is there at 29, I think you take them there. Jacob hit on all the major points. You got to get up for the quarterback. You know, your pass rush is going to definitely help your secondary, so you know, as much as you might be tempted to take a corner at 29, your pass rush is going to help whoever you have at corner. So I think first round is definitely in play, probably priority number 1. If not, you better address one on day 2. I mean, Packer fans, including myself, are going to be pretty on edge, if not just borderline upset, pissed off if you don't have addressed the edge area heading into Saturday.
I don't disagree here. I wouldn't be shocked to see a veteran addition on the edge just because they lost a veteran in Julius Peppers and will likely lose Nick Perry as well. As Packer fans, we're not really used to veteran additions of any kind. But from a strict, if you're going into it thinking, well, they haven't signed anybody, they haven't re-signed anybody, how do you address this just with the draft? I would still take probably a pass rusher at 29, just because, Voch just said there are 12 first-round corners. I think there are 10. The chances of you being able to maybe jump up and get that 10th guy or have the 12th guy fall to you at what would I think end up being like, 51 or whenever they pick again, I really think that, or 61, excuse me, I really think there's a chance you're able to get a corner that a lot of years would go in the first round, somewhere late second, maybe jump up, do a Jason Spriggs type thing, and get him mid-second. I feel a lot better about that than snagging that corner in round one and praying that Carl Lawson or somebody, takes a nosedive there in round two. It's not going to happen with T.J. Watt. He did too well at the Combine. He, I think, is going to be a top 45 pick. I like the idea of that pass rusher at 29, and then you're looking at your corner, your defensive back health in round 2 or 3. I have no issue with that. The other part of it, about it is I believe in Demarius Randall and Quentin Rollins. I still do. I think they're both top 60 picks by Ted Thompson. They're both getting to work with Joe Witt. Athleticism-wise, I don't have an issue with them. They both played well as rookies. I expect Devontae Adams type returns to normal, really, if not a little progression in year 3. And, if even just one of them figures it out, you're in a completely different position than you were before. Plus, I actually think the Devon House thing gets done. I'd be surprised if he and the Packers don't work something out. So I think edge rusher is your primary need and is something that can maybe take a little bit of heat off Matthews, keep him healthier, because when he's healthy, he's a completely different kind of player, and then that's a very important part. So let's talk about the popular guys in that first round. We all agree 29, so let's talk about guys at 29. Cody, who's your favorite potential number 29 overall pick at the edge position?
Well, I appreciate you letting me go first because I know that we all kind of have a little something for this guy. Is T.J. Watt out of Wisconsin, and a lot has been said about him. We're Wisconsin homers, even though Ross, you're not even from here, and Jacob, you're an Illinois guy. I mean, there's just something about Watt, his size, his athleticism. Too much is made about his. Well, if it wasn't his last name was Watt, he wouldn't be anything. Well, that's crap, because you put on the film, you watch his athleticism, you understand that he's only played the position for 18 to 20 months. You're working with a moldable piece of clay that any defensive coach would love to put their hands on. I mean, Aranda started it, and then, of course, the gentleman who just took over the California head coaching job, Wilcox, just, kind of helped to mold it. This guy is just scratching the surface of what he could become. I would love to see him paired with Clay Matthews. I think he could be the future long-term kind of guy, your premier pass rusher. Got huge hands, long arms, great agility. He plays with a high motor, all the other white guy terms. But, ultimately he's just somebody who produced at such a young part of his development in his career at Wisconsin. He hit the sky is really, the limit for this kid. And I would be a fan, and I know that you two guys would, and there's some others out there who don't exactly think he's worth 29, but I think that would be a superb pick in the first round for us.
Yes, I really appreciate you bringing up his whiteness, his ability to be the first one in and the last one out, his grittiness, his guttiness.
Coach's kid.
Yep, he knows exactly when rent is due every day to the landlord of success. I love it all with T.J. Watt. I mean, I think I kind of agree with you in that it is Watt. I looked at the film. He tested out great. He's 6'5". I don't understand the hate. I asked the world on Twitter. Nobody really answered me. I'm just not sure what it's about. But Watt would be my guy. But I want to talk about Takk McKinley. I think, you talk about Takk McKinley, and there was a player last year, Jordan Jenkins, I think was his name, out of Georgia, who was an outside linebacker that really didn't project to pass rush at all, but was immediately going to be an outstanding run defender, out there. And I really think that Tack McKinley has the ability to rush the passer, but at the same time is like that level of run defender. I think him even standing up as an outside linebacker is as good in run defense as you're going to see. And I know that's not what you take a first-round pick for at that position. That's about getting after the passer. It's about disrupting the passing game in a passing league. But at the same time, I mean, this is a guy that I think could completely transform your run defense and have the upside to be able to eventually pass rush. I mean, Voch brought it up. He's a guy that doesn't even really know how to play football fully yet. You get him with a outside linebacker coach or a defensive ends coach that knows what the hell's going on. I would take this kid in the top 10 in most drafts. I really do believe that. But I think day one, he could have, just an unbelievable impact on your run defense right away, even from an edge position. So my guy, I probably agree with Cody, but I am very much in love with Tack McKinley. I think he's a top 10 talent, and I really think, this shoulder thing, if it's a 4 to 6 month injury and you're going to get him at least as part of the program week one, maybe that drops him to 29, and that would be absolutely spectacular. So my guy's Tack McKinley. It's probably really TJ Watt, but I wanted to talk about Tack for a little bit as well. Jacob, your guy.
Well, Cody, you brought up kind of your disclaimer about how, you're from Wisconsin, Ross isn't, and I'm from Illinois, and I'm a Michigan fan, so I don't even really like Wisconsin all that much. I kind of have it's not really a rivalry, but, I don't root for them to win by any stretch of the imagination either. I actually rooted for Wisconsin to lose more games, and I rooted for them to win this year for playoff implications and stuff like that. So I don't even really have a bias toward Wisconsin, and I admittedly went into film study trying to find reasons to not like him for the sake of trying to make this show more interesting, and I couldn't find anything. Ross, you mentioned it. The tape checks out. The athletic testing numbers check out. I don't understand the hatred for this guy. I don't know what the deal is. I like the guy quite a bit. I know he just changed positions, and it's interesting. And he's relatively new to it. So, yeah, I mean, that's a guy that I would probably take 29th overall. But the guy I want to talk about, I remember my general way that I watch college football is, I'll admit it, I don't quote-unquote scout players during the season. During the season, I'm pretty much watching games with maize and blue goggles on. I watch Michigan play, and I watch them with googly eyes, so to speak. So I don't start scouting players until the end of the season. And the first game that I really watched with a scout's eye was a bowl game between Nebraska and Tennessee. And the guy who caught my eye immediately was Derek Barnett. And the first thing I saw was he wins just about every snap on that play. And then over the weekend on the combine, the guy's sicker than a dog. He goes out there. He doesn't have the greatest workout, but he was out there. And he's doing everything that is asked of him. And Ross, you said it to me over the weekend, and I think, again, you kind of said it best of, someone will overthink this and overthink his tape. But I'm not going to be that guy. And I'm not going to overthink Derek Barnett's tape. He is all over the place. He always seems to make one big play a game. I don't know if he's going to fall to 29. That's kind of where, if you ask like 10 different people where the edge rushers fall in line, I think you'll probably get 10 different opinions. And that's what kind of makes this draft season interesting as far as the pass rushers go specifically. But if Derek Barnett is there at the 29th overall pick, I have an affinity in general for a pass rusher from Tennessee because one of my favorite players is Reggie White, and that's where Reggie White went to school. I'm not remotely going to compare Derek Barnett to Reggie White, but I really like him. He makes a lot of big plays. There were some questions about his athletic ability in general, but he's a young player. He fits Ted Thompson's mold. He has that snap jump ability. He's quick off the ball. And like I said, he makes one big play a game, and he has that, whether you want to call it intangible, heart thing, whatever it was, but he was at the combine. He was sick. Any it would have been easy for him to not participate that day and chalk it up as I had the flu or I had, whatever it was that he was dealing with that day. But he was out there. And you chalk that up along with his tape. I really like Derek Barnett. I like TJ Watt, like you mentioned as well. I really like Takk McKinley as well. I really like this class as a whole. But if you're asking me to pick a favorite guy in that round in general, Derek Barnett is a guy that I really, really enjoy. And I hope that that's one of the first guys I really noticed, and I'm absolutely smitten with that guy.
So we'll probably skip C again. Our favorite player at the position is Myles Garrett, because if he's not, you have serious talent evaluation issues. Who's the most underrated player in this class?
That is a really good question. There's a plethora of players that it really depends on who you ask. Like I mentioned, if you ask 10 different guys, you might get 10 different answers. There are guys who don't like Derek Barnett. There's guys who, like Mel Kiper, has Taco Charlton going in the top 10. There's other people who think he's a second-round talent. There's guys who don't think Tim Williams is very good. And there's other guys who have, Voch was mentioning a guy like Charles Harris. That's a guy who I tend to like a little bit as well. And that's the guy who I'm going to tend to side with here as far as underrated, because I see him anywhere between, in most mocks that I've read at least, between your second and third round area. And I think this is a guy who's probably a high second round pick. I think he's a good player, probably, like I said, a high second round, maybe a late first round type pick. So if you want to go with undervalued, if there are people that think he's a third round pick, that's undervalued. But there's not really a good sense for who's going to go where because of how deep this class is. It's kind of like we talked about with some of the other positions. That's going to push some of these guys down the board that maybe in another class. You're talking about, Takk McKinley is an example. In another class, this is a guy who might be a top 10 pick, and now he's a realistic option for the Packers at 29th overall. Charles Harris is a guy that kind of fits that profile as well for somebody who might get pushed down the board that really doesn't deserve to because he's in such a deep class.
Yeah, I think I have to watch more Charles Harris. I was not impressed, but I'll go back and look. My guy is, and this seems to be a recurring thing, people know that I cover the football championship subdivision. That's no mystery. And my guy's Derek Rivers from Youngstown State. He was a very serious problem, and that's a guy. North Dakota State has two tackles that I think will probably. One's young, but they'll eventually end up in the National Football League. Landon Leckler, the right tackle, who he was lined up on a lot, is going to be a priority free agent or a seventh-round pick. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm guessing a priority free agent, but he'll be on an NFL team 45 minutes after the draft. And Rivers was just a monster. He and Derek Moss were outstanding edge defenders for Youngstown State. Youngstown State actually, though North Dakota State won the league, Youngstown State was the league's representative in the national championship game. Ended up losing that game to James Madison, but it certainly wasn't because of anything that Rivers did. He is, I really do believe in NFL talent. I think he's a guy that is scheme versatile, and I would definitely spend a third, fourth, fifth, mid-round pick on Rivers and just hope that he's overlooked a little bit because of his FCS background, because I don't think he's a liability in the run game, and I do believe that he'd be able to provide a lot of pass rush and has some athletic upside as well. So Derek Rivers is my guy. Cody, the most underrated edge rusher in this class.
I sure like the Derek Rivers call there. He was one of the options I was thinking about. I want just a couple guys. Tyus Bowser, I think, from Houston, is going pretty on the radar right now. He's a guy who has his circles amongst the draft community on who he thinks he can be a good player. But he ended up testing really well at the combine. Had a great year for Houston. He's got a phenomenal size. I think he's a lot of the things that a lot of three teams are going to want out of an outside linebacker. I think if you get him around 3, possibly even around 2, you would be happy as a clam at that point. I think he's getting overlooked among the draft at this point. Another guy that is kind of like quiet, even though he played for the Big 12, is Jordan Willis from Kansas State. Talk about combine winners and losers. If you're writing an article and you don't have Jordan Willis as a combine winner, then you weren't watching the combine. He absolutely tore the roof off of everything, every athletic testing ability there was. Plus, he's been two-time All Big 12 the last 2 years. He was the leader of the Big 12, leader of the state team this year, voted team captain. Just everything you want out of a player. He's the epitome of that. Kind of reached to what might be looking for. But as great as he tested, his field play, he maybe didn't look as great as he tested athletically. So it causes him to drop, and not a lot of people are excited about him. So I think he'd fall under the underrated category against someone in the third round if you could snatch him up. There's just a lot of raw tools there that you'd like to work with if you're outside linebacker coach. My guys, I guess, would be Bowser and Willis.
Well, I think our last question that we've been going with on these shows is going to be pretty unanimous as well. You guys check out my Mock Draft Monday piece every Monday at Cheesehead TV. You will find a 6-pick, 5-round mock draft every time. That's what we're focusing on in this show, those 6 picks in those 5 rounds. Guys, what's the likelihood the Packers take an edge rusher with one of those 6 picks? Jacob?
100%. I've mentioned it probably, again, on just about every off-season show I've done, whether here, for Titletown Sound, Pulse of the Pack, whatever. There aren't any guys there. Free agency is about to begin. We don't know the status of Nick Perry. You'd imagine Julius Peppers is probably moving on. Dayton Jones, you don't know the status of him. Clay Matthews is older, was injured last year. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. Kyler Fackrell, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. There's a pretty decent possibility the Packers need to rebuild the entire outside linebacker core. And if they don't take an edge rusher in the first 5 rounds, I don't know where you're going to get any pass rush from. So 100%, and if they don't, then I'm going to guess that Ted Thompson has gone into a stage of dementia and has forgotten a lot more about football than maybe we originally thought, or if he thought any at all. But 100%, I can't see them just ignoring the pass rush position.
Cody, the odds that they take an edge rusher in those first 6 picks?
We'll make it quick. 100%.
I think it's 100% as well, with the exception of, maybe re-signing Nick Perry and, bringing in Elvis Dumerville or something. I mean, they'd have to really have a lot of faith in Kyler Fackrell and Jaron Elliott, which I still wish Jaron Elliott would get some more snaps, but that seems like a cross I'm going to have to bear for a while.
Amen.
So we would like to once again thank Voch Lombardi for coming on. We haven't had a guest yet this season, and boy, did he certainly kick that off with a bang. That was a lot of fun. Be sure to check out his stuff on YouTube, and then be sure to check out our stuff. I've got Mock Draft Mondays now that'll come up every Monday on Cheesehead TV. More than likely going to be covering the draft every Friday on Football Friday at PackersTalk.com. You can check out Jacob's work at FanRag, and be sure to be on the look for that draft guide from Cheesehead TV, because Cody's work will be showing up there very, very soon. Thank you guys one more time, and go Pack Go.